Welcome to Fox on Religion. I'm Carol Iavana. For centuries, Christians the world over have recounted the story of Christmas. It's a story we try to remember when the sometimes overwhelming commercialism of the holiday gets to be too much. We think of the quiet events that took place in a little town called Bethlehem. But what was the first Christmas really like? Are the places we call holy today really the sites of the miraculous occurrences described in the Bible? Paul Maier is a professor of history at Western Michigan University, and he's written extensively on just that topic. One of his books is called First Christmas, and he joins us today to tell the tale once again. Dr. Maier, thank you so much for joining us.
Carol, it's great to be here.
This is a story that we have heard many, many, many times, but we'd like you to review it for us again in the historical context that you have rediscovered it in.
Well, everyone's familiar with the Christmas account, of course, in Matthew and Luke, and they retell the account in Christmas pageants and so on. But what I wanted to do was to see if we couldn't find additional fascinating data from non-biblical materials, the findings of archaeology, the records of ancient history, to see if we couldn't add more detail to the account.
So walk us through it and give us the details.
Basically, it's, questions like what would the marital customs have been for an engaged couple in Galilee? Which route did they take down to Bethlehem? Is the Church of the Nativity at Bethlehem authentic or not? The cave where Jesus was born. You know, by the way, he was born in a cavern that was used as a stable, not simply a stable as we see in our creches under the Christmas trees. We're so used to, well, the New Testament mentions there was a manger there, and a manger obviously is a place where animals are going to come feed. It
was a stable environment.
It was a stable environment indeed, but Bethlehem itself is perforated with so many of these caverns and grottos and caves that would have been very logical to use some of those for purposes of shelter. And so the grotto under the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, on a scale of 1 to 10, for authenticity, it's a high 8, believe it or not. It's the oldest Christian church in the world continuing in operation.
Does it surprise you that the story has stayed so much intact in these 2,000 years?
Not really, because you have a unique individual here. You have Jesus as God, as man, the incarnation, probably the greatest miracle of all. And the only information we have on it is the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, and therefore it's been handed down over the last 20 centuries pretty much without change. All I try to do is not gild the lily, but try to bring in interesting sidelights as to what else happened. The rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say. Yeah.
Now let's why don't you take us on a pilgrimage to the Church of the Nativity, a brief one if we can. If you go to the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, which is built over this site, what do you see?
You see not a very attractive church on the outside, that's got to be admitted first, but Constantine the emperor laid the foundation for it in 326 AD, and then Justinian built the present structure which you see over it. You can still see Constantinian mosaic underneath. Under the high altar, you go down a flight of steps and you come to a room which is 13 feet wide and 33 feet long. And this is the cave or grotto of the Nativity. And this is just fascinating to be there, of course, and realize that most probably here it happened.
And what is the feeling that comes over one when you're in that spot?
Well, it's a melange of people are there, of course. It's hard to ever be there alone, and they're singing Christmas carols, and the carols differ and whatever else, so it's kind of crowded, but it's still a thrill.
What I would imagine for many, many people, it just becomes an overwhelmingly solemn and yet very, very joyous occasion to be there.
It is, and the site is authentic because we have the church father Origen mentioning that in the 200s AD that even the pagans in Bethlehem were willing to tell anyone who would listen that this is the cavern where the Jesus was born who the Christians revere. And before that, Justin Martyr, 150 AD, that's getting very far back, said that Jesus was born here in that cavern. So, it's very authentic.
The historical reference is quite incredible. Okay. We do want to mention something else, though, that is rather interesting and get your take on it, and that is the Nativity Stones collection. I mean, you can actually get a piece, at least according to this company, and let me just hold this up. In these crosses right here is a piece of the stone from the cave. Could you briefly comment on that?
I think it's a fascinating thing, which Stanley Slotkin years ago in 1963, they were working on the Cave of the Nativity to enlarge a corridor, and they were going
very brief time,
and they were going to throw out this material just as any construction site. But he said, now wait a minute, this may have value. value. And so he collected all this, guaranteed by the mayor of Bethlehem. And so this is one case where I don't simply consider it a relic that you can turn your nose up at. I think these are real.
It's important. Thank you so much for joining us. We thank Mr. Dayud again and Paul Maier for helping us tell the story of Christmas. That's all for Fox on Religion. I'm Carol Iavana, wishing you a very happy holiday. There's more news next on Fox News Channel.